Hi, today I'm gonna show you how to knit this elf slip-on, any size. Let's get started. Please check my description box for all the details. The yarn and needles are all up to you. This slip-on knit from ankle, toes to toe. So many patterns out there, but I couldn't find anything size adjustable or and seamless. So I decide I'm gonna make my own pattern, which means you need foot mat and maybe socks. Especially if you're knitting for somebody else, you should prepare the foot mat and sock. I'm gonna start with heel. Well, this is actually how you figured it out, how many casts you start with. There's 3 rules. The baseline is heel stitch. You have to find stitch number to cover your heel. You should maybe make a little sample just to cover the heel. And I was thinking maybe my heel stitch number should be between 6 to 8. So I choose 7, in between 6 and 8, right? So if you pick the stitch for heel, that stitch times 6, mine's 7, so 7 times 6 is 42. And the whole stitch count should be multiple of 2. Also, when you divide by 2, which is front piece and back piece, both pieces should be odd number. So 42 divided by 2 is 21. So my cast number 42 is perfect number. Okay, so I'm gonna give you example number. If I decide 8 stitches for base heel, so if it's 8, 8 times 6 is 48. 48 is multiple of 2, so the rule number 2 should be okay. But when you divide by 2, 48 divided by 2 is 24. 24 is even number, so number 3 is not really. So, if you add 2 stitch to make it 50, 50 divided by 2 is 25. So that's how you figured it out. But you know what? The rule number 3, you don't really have to worry about it too much because you can fix the number later. Or you can actually find right cast on number first. Then we can figure it out for your heel number. It's really up to you. But my way is a little bit better. Cast on. I made 42 cast according to my math. If you worry about the size, whether it fits you or not, you should always take gauge and knit sample first. Then make sure it will fit you, or you always take bigger, safer side of the cast number. After the cast, I'm going to connect both ends. Because I'm using longer cable, I'm going to use magic loop technique. If you have right length of the cable, you don't need to do magic loop technique. And if you never done magic loop technique and you need practice, I put the link for magic loop video so you can go watch that video first. Anyway, all knit once. I am going to do garter stitch. But the garter stitch is usually all knit on right side and wrong side. You're using this technique if you're knitting on flat, but you can create garter stitch in round too. Super easy. Row number 1, all knit, and row number 2, all purl. And you just have to repeat those 2 rows. First row, I knit. Now, second row, all purl. Again, as I told you earlier, if you want to do the garter stitch in round, row number 1, all knit. Row number 2, all purl. And you just have to repeat row number 1 and row number 2. That's the method for the garter stitch in round. So you can actually do until your desired length. My project this time, I'm gonna knit kind of slip on ankle, short length of the socks. So I knit tiny bit, which is 7 row altogether. I repeat it total of 3 times and then all knit once more, equal 7 rows. Then right after that, I'm gonna start making heel. So this is my ankle, short socks. You know what I'm saying, right? As you can see, the little bit of the rib and then heel right after that. And if you want to create longer, socks like this, you have to actually knit more. Right now, the rib should be on top of the heel. You know what I'm saying? So it's really up to you. If you want to, get longer, like a boots or socks, longer socks type, you have to knit more. So it's really, really up to you. It doesn't have to be slip-on. But I am going to make slip-on size really short. So now I want to talk about heel. The heel, which means from maybe ankle to the ground, the bottom of the sole, right? So it's not going to be long. So you really have to make a plan, how long you want for back of your heel. Not too long. Now you have to divide by 2 from the begin marker. One side is front, the other side is heel or back. And for me, 21 stitches each side because my cast was 42. So 42 divided by 2 is 21. So that's the front and back. Now let's make a heel height, which means I'm not knitting front piece. Row number 1, slip 1 purlwise and all knit across. That's it. This is end of the row number 1, knit and knit. Then now you turn the work. Again, you're not knitting front because you're knitting heel. Row number 2, slip 1 purlwise and all purl. That's it. And repeat of row number 1 and row number 2 until it reaches the ground, which is until your desired height of your heel. I did total of 6 times. Again, if you're knitting for somebody else, maybe it's easier for you to check whether height is enough or not if you have socks from them. Now, let's knit bottom of the heel. First of all, I want you to add 2 markers. Heel stitch divided by 3. My heel stitch is 21. 21 divided 3 is 7. So 7 stitch, add marker, count 7 more stitch, and add marker. So each section has 7 stitch. Now I want to talk about other way to figure it out, the heel stitch. For the some people, they don't want to do math at the very beginning, so they decide, okay, this is my cast number, let's say 50, right? 50 or even 60, fine. 50 divided by 2 is 25. 25 divided by 3 is 8 point la 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 la. So 8 stitch for both side and 9 stitch for mid part. And everything what I just said are in my description box, and if you don't still understand, just leave the comment. Now let's move on. Heel row number 3, right side. Quite easy. Slip 1 purlwise and knit until second marker, which is orange. Pass the green marker, the first marker, and just keep knitting until second marker. And whenever you hit second marker, you remove the marker. No more marker after this. Then slip, slip, knit, SSK. There you go. Knit 1. And you create big gap there, but just ignore and turn the work. Now wrong side. Row number 4. Slip 1 purlwise and all purl until the marker, which is green marker. And whenever you hit the marker, remove it, then purl 2 together this time. After this, there is a gap there, but just ignore and turn the work. Row number 5, slip 1 purlwise and knit until one last stitch before the gap. The gap is right there. So one last stitch. So please watch my video carefully and knit until one last stitch. There you go. One last stitch and gap. You will do SSK. You have to close the gap with SSK. There you go. But you did SSK and another gap there. So you turn around and slip 1 purlwise. This is row number 6, and purl until one last stitch before the gap. Do same thing. The difference is SSK or purl 2 together. Now you're on the wrong side, purl side, so one last stitch and gap, purl 2 together to close that gap. However, you create new gap there too. But just keep doing. Repeat of row number 5 and row number 6 until both side stitches are gone. So you close the gap, but you create the gap. So how you get rid of the gap? You just have to get rid of those side stitch. I want to show you how to, end this. Okay, so knit, this is right side, and the gap there, and this is knit side, so SSK. There you go, no more stitch. So this is finished, and the other side still has gap, so I have to close that gap, which means row number 6, slip 1 purlwise and or purl until one last stitch before the gap, and this is going to be end of the heel row. Okay, here comes one stitch left, then gap and last side stitch. So make purl 2 together to close the gap. No more stitch after that. There you go, no more gap. And then ta-da, you made heel. It's done. Nice and neat. By the way, this is the easiest heel for socks, from the ankle to toe socks. There you go. Perfect. And now you have to reconnect everything and then make a gusset towards to arch. That's a fun part as well. This is quite easy. Just reconnect everything. Heel, side, and now front. So whenever you go around next row, I want you to do add markers. Okay, the first of all, mid of the center of heel, I want you to add begin marker. That's going to be new beginning. I'm actually knitting the heel, the bottom right now. I have 9 stitch, so I knit 4 and put begin marker there. That's my new begin, and knit rest of them. After this, there's no more stitch because it's the side. So you have to knit up. And obviously you remember you did slip 1, at the very beginning. That creates beautiful stitch right there. It's easy to see the edge stitch. So whenever you want to see the beautiful edge like that, you have to slip 1 at the very beginning. Okay, anyway, so I am going to knit up every stitch. 1, 2, and I ended up knit up 8 stitches. And you have to remember this number because you have the other side and you want to knit up same number, right? So anyway, I knit up 8 stitch, and now front piece. But before you knit front piece, add 1 marker. And I want you to use different color of marker or different type or even scrap yarn. I'll tell you why later. And knit across. This is front piece. And after you've finish knitting front piece, I want you to add another marker, and I want you to use different type or color of marker. And then this side you will knit up. Again, I told you I knit up 8, so I am going to knit up 8 stitch. Because it's such a, a short length, so you can kind of make a plan where you want to, knit up. Also, again, this side, it's beautiful edge, so it's super easy to knit up. Again, if you want to edge like this, you always have to slip one at the very beginning and then knit or purl all the way down. Then you're going to have this beautiful edge. So I guess I knit up 8th stitch now. Okay, but this is not end, right? You have new beginning there. So you will knit one more round until the begin marker. Then now you will start making called gusset. Right there, gusset. So that's the front piece, and the both side of the front piece you will create gusset, which is actually decreasing. So anyway, knit until this is gusset row number 1, 3 stitch before the orange marker. So on your left side of the marker, not the right side, 3 stitch before, and then knit 2 together and knit 1. Then slide the marker, and here comes front stitch, right, until green marker. And always outside of the front piece. So the green marker, another or second marker, you will decrease outside after the green marker. Okay, the orange one before the marker, you decrease 1. If you're using same type of the marker, sometimes you get confused. Believe me, I did confused. So if it's different color, that'll be easier. Anyway, slide the second marker, and now you do knit 1, and then this time SSK. There you go. 1 decrease there, and then knit until end, which is, the begin marker. And row number 2 is all knit. And you just have to repeat row number 1 to row number 2 until just before the arch, because around the arch is the skinniest part, right? So don't pass the arch, because if you decrease in more and more, it's going to be so narrow. So I stop before the arch. Obviously, this is knitting, so material should be very stretchy. So you don't really have to worry about, but you don't want to wear tight slip-on, right? After this, just knit, knit, knit until maybe half of your toe. If you're knitting for yourself, this is so easy. Just put it on and make sure, the length is good. If not, then you check with the map. Let me tell you this. Don't stop knitting way too early. You can actually cover all your toes. When I knit my sample, I stop knitting way too early, bottom of the toe, and then create that, the tip. I really hate that when I wear them because the tip of the toe was too short, and I seriously didn't like it. Anyway, it's up to you, but I recommend you to cover, all of your toe if you want. Anyway, I decide I'm gonna change the color, stripes. And I just want to show you one thing. If you change the color like this, stripes, okay, this is end of the red, the first red yarn row, and now second row. You grab previous stitch, which is green. So this is only happen in second row. Okay, you just usually knit, right? But pick up the previous stitch like this, just the right side of the stitch, and hook onto left needle. Then those two stitch knitted together. This way you can avoid little jog. The problem with the knitting, stripes, if you don't do this trick, there's a little jog. It's not match. It's not straight. And you can't really avoid every single jog, but you can minimize the jog. So whenever you change the color, you should do this. Little design, up to you. You don't need to do stripes. It's seriously up to you. Anyway, I knit almost reaching the toe. I could knit more, but I stop anyway. Now let's make that, shape, the tip. You have to split in half. Count stitches from the begin marker and split in half, front and back. So you gotta move the marker. Now I'm not using markers because I split in half, so I know, where is the half, right? So I don't need biggie marker either. And if your stitch count is not odd number, you can decrease one stitch right in the middle. You should have odd stitch number. But if you have even number, don't freak out. Okay, just decrease one stitch both side, then start. The toe row number 1. That's the begin, right? That's the begin marker. I mean, I don't use the begin marker, but that's the begin. SSK at the very edge. And this is edge, so it's a little bit tight. Just take your time. I was a little bit struggled there. Okay, SSK and knit until last 2 stitch. I'm talking about back piece right now. And you do exactly same thing the other side, which is front piece. Anyway, SSK and knit until last 2 stitch. And last 2 stitch right on the edge, you decrease 1. Knit 2 together, the left side. Here comes, knit 2 together, 1 decrease here. And turn the work, and you're not gonna, do wrong side. This side, which is the front piece. So please don't make a mistake there, okay? So now right side, SSK. Left side, knit 2 together. That's how you remember. I'm having trouble picking up the stitch. SSK and knit across until last 2 stitch, which is same as, back piece, right? And then at the edge, last 2 stitch, knit 2 together. This is the toe row number 1. Super easy. Just, decreasing right on the edge. So sometimes it's a little bit hard, but just take your time. And I don't want to get confused. So I add begin marker, not right on the row, a little bit down. So, whenever you see the marker, this is the begin. Yeah, that's what I did because I don't want to get confused. Anyway, so row number 2 and row number 4 all knit. So 3 rows all knit. So just repeat off row number 1 to row number 4 until stitch count is 3. Anyway, I just finished the 4 rows. As you can see, there's a decrease, the SSK, and 1, 2, 3. So, I want to tell you one thing. If you don't want to have long tip toe, you can do all knit 2 row instead of 3. You know what I'm saying? So the row number 1 decrease and row number 2 and 3 is all knit. Then there's no more row number 4. You come back to row number 1. So repeat row number 1 to row number 3. And I can actually say the other way around. If you want to go longer and longer, decreasing row number 1, and then next 5 row instead of 3 on it. That's how you change the length. But row number 1 decreasing and next 3 on it, that's actually fair amount. However, that's for my stitch count. If you have more stitch count, it's gonna get longer. You know what I'm saying, right? If you have 40 for front piece and back piece, and only 1 decrease on first row, right? Which means until 3 stitch left, which means what? You have to decrease 37 rows plus, all knit rows. So it's gonna be long. So you have to kind of look the balance, right? How many stitch you have. So how many, the decrease I need to make, the 3 stitch left for both sides, stuff like that. Then you decide after the decreasing row, how many row you want to knit, stuff like that. And now I have 3 stitch left both sides. Slip 1 stitch purlwise, then knit 2 together. This is row number 5. Then PSSO, which is pass slip stitch over. Then now one stitch left. So the other side, you still have a 3 stitch left. This is a little bit awkward, okay, because there's not too many stitch left. So don't drop any stitch. One, slip purlwise and knit two together. There you go. And then PSSO. So now you have one stitch each. You connect now. So no more right side or back side. Okay, now you have 2 stitch on the needle. So row number 6, as you can see, knit 2 together to make those 2 stitch to 1 stitch. This is it for the slip-on part. But let me tell you one more thing. Because my knitting concept of this is size adjustable. A lot of people use, different technique and they can adjust the sizes. And I like seamless. So this is the only way I create the elf slipper, which is very flat, right? And I don't want anybody to wear flat socks like this because some people's gonna step on that, tip and then, fall and injured. So for your own safety, I strongly recommend you to sew the tip of your toe onto main body to secure it. You know what I'm saying? And there's actually one more way. Hang in there. So I create, pom-pom, and I use that, end tail, okay, through it. And obviously front piece right in the middle, okay, like that. I sew them. So the tip of the toe kind of curled, just like, elf, right? This is so cute and very secure. So, this tip not gonna go flat and anybody won't step on it, and very safe, right? And if you're knitting for very small children, you should put something on the back of the slipper so they're not gonna, slip too much, right? Anyway, I believe, this is cute. The tip is curled and very secure. But if you don't like this, there's one more way to do. And I want you to watch very carefully, okay? This is sample I made. Look at the tip toe. Curl. When I pull that yarn on my right hand, the tip of the toe curled. And what I did is this. The tip of your toe, right, front piece, there's a still, end yarn. Just pick up mid stitch, little by little towards to the, ankle. Just a little bit. There you go. Maybe 1 or 2 inch down, like that. And then ended up, you pull that needle inside. because you don't want to see, the thread on top of your slipper, right? See, I am putting my needle in and make sure, the tip of the toe curled. Pull, there you go. And whenever you like the shape, you turn the socks inside out, and you have to secure that, the yarn, anywhere you want. Secure the yarn inside and make sure, the tip of the toe curl. So whichever you want, but I want you to make sure the tip of the toe is secured. I like the, big pom-pom thing, looks cute, right? Anyway, this is not end. The around the ankle, I add kind of fluffy, edge. This is really up to you. I just want to have fun because, who wants to wear this? Anybody for the holiday season, right? So this type of the decoration will be extra fun, don't you think? So knitting up a one round and 2-3 rows I just knit. That's about it. If you really want to, fluffy, you can knit more, right? But I didn't. Then I use tapestry needle to do stretchy cast off, which is easy cast off. Purl 2, get purl 2 together like this. It's really hard to see, sorry. And then you don't drop any stitch off from the needle. Then knit first one. Then now you drop first stitch off, and you just keep doing same thing until one last stitch. Okay, this is it. Enjoy knitting!